There is a quiet kind of pain that doesn't scream, that doesn't break things around you, that doesn't make scenes or demand attention, but instead it lives inside you, silently, deeply, in a way that only you can feel, a pain that shows up in the moments when you're alone, when the noise fades, when the distractions disappear, and suddenly you're left with your thoughts, your memories, your emotions, and that's when it hits you, not all at once, but slowly, like a wave that rises and falls, reminding you of everything you've been carrying, everything you've been holding on to, everything you haven't fully let go of. And maybe you've been pretending that you're okay. Maybe you've been telling yourself that you've moved on, that you've healed, that you're stronger now. But deep down you know there are still parts of you that feel heavy, parts of you that still go back to the past, parts of you that still wonder, what if things were different? And that doesn't make you weak, it makes you human, because healing is not about forgetting. It's not about erasing the past. It's about learning how to live with it without letting it control you, without letting it define who you are today. And that process, it takes time. It takes patience. It takes a level of honesty that is not always easy, because it requires you to face yourself, to acknowledge what hurt you, to understand why it affected you the way it did, to recognize the patterns you've been repeating, the emotions you've been suppressing, the parts of yourself that you've been ignoring. And that's not comfortable. It's not something you can rush. It's something you have to go through step by step, moment by moment. And I know there are times when it feels like you're not making progress, when it feels like you're stuck, like you're going in circles, feeling the same emotions over and over again. But what you don't see is that even in those moments, you are changing. You are becoming more aware, more conscious, more in tune with yourself. And that awareness, it's the beginning of healing. Because once you see something clearly, once you understand it, you gain the power to change it, to release it, to grow beyond it. And that's what this journey is about. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real, becoming honest with yourself, becoming someone who no longer runs away from their emotions, but faces them, understands them, and uses them as a path to growth. And yes, it's not easy. Yes, it takes time. But every step you take, no matter how small it feels, is moving you forward, even if you don't realize it yet. Even if you don't see the results immediately, something inside you is shifting, something inside you is healing, and one day, you will look back and realize that all those quiet moments, all those times you felt lost, all those times you questioned everything, they were part of your transformation. They were shaping you into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone more aligned with who you are meant to be. Letting go is one of the hardest things you will ever have to do, not because you don't know it's necessary, but because your heart doesn't always agree with your mind. Because even when you understand that something is no longer right for you, even when you see clearly that holding on is causing you pain, there is still a part of you that remembers what it used to be, that remembers the moments that made you feel alive, the connection, the hope, the meaning, and that memory, it makes it difficult to release. It makes it difficult to walk away, because you're not just letting go of what is, you're letting go of what it once was. And that distinction is important, because often we don't hold on to reality. We hold on to memories, to feelings, to the version of something that no longer exists. And that's why it hurts so much, because you're trying to hold on to something that has already changed, something that is no longer aligned with who you are becoming, and that creates resistance. It creates pain. It creates a constant internal conflict between what you know and what you feel. And that conflict can keep you stuck for a long time, going back and forth, questioning your decisions, doubting yourself, wondering if you're making the right choice. But here's the truth. Letting go is not about losing something valuable. It's about creating space for something that truly aligns with you, something that supports your growth, your peace, your future. And I know that's hard to see in the moment, especially when you're still emotionally connected, when you're still processing everything. But sometimes what feels like loss is actually release. It's the removal of something that was no longer meant for you, something that had already fulfilled its purpose in your life. And holding on to it beyond that point only delays your growth, only keeps you attached to something that is no longer serving you. And I know there is fear in letting go, fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of not finding something better, fear of stepping into the unknown without certainty. And that fear can be powerful. It can keep you stuck. It can convince you to stay in situations that are no longer right for you, simply because they are familiar, because they are known, but growth doesn't happen in familiarity. It happens in change. It happens when you step outside of what you know and allow yourself to experience something new, something different, something that aligns with who you are becoming. And that requires faith, not perfect faith, not absolute certainty, but enough belief to take the next step, enough trust to move forward even when you don't have all the answers. And that's where your strength comes in, not in having everything figured out, but in continuing despite the uncertainty, in choosing yourself even when it's hard, in letting go even when your heart is still catching up. Because sometimes the right decision doesn't feel easy, it doesn't feel comfortable, but it feels necessary, and over time, you will understand why. Faith is not about having everything go your way. It's not about living a life without challenges, without pain, without uncertainty. It's about trusting that even in the middle of all those things, there is a purpose, there is a direction, there is something greater at work, even if you don't fully understand it yet. And I know that's difficult, especially when you're going through something that doesn't make sense, when you've lost something important, when things didn't turn out the way you expected, when you're left with more questions than answers. But sometimes what feels like confusion is actually redirection. Sometimes what feels like loss is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like the end is actually the beginning of something new, something better, something that you couldn't see before because you were too focused on what you thought your life was supposed to look like. And that's why faith is important, because it allows you to move forward without needing to control everything, without needing to understand everything. It allows you to trust that even if things are not working out the way you planned, they are still working out in a way that serves your growth, your healing, your purpose. And that trust, it doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It doesn't mean you won't have doubts. It means that despite those things, you choose to keep going. You choose to believe that there is still something ahead of you, something worth moving toward, something that will make sense of everything you've been through. And that belief, even if it's small, it's powerful. Because it keeps you moving, it keeps you from giving up, it keeps you open to what's next, and sometimes that's all you need. Not a perfect plan, not complete clarity, just enough faith to take the next step, to keep going one day at a time, one moment at a time, trusting that even if you can't see the full picture, you are still on the right path. There is a part of healing that nobody really talks about, a part that happens quietly, slowly, in the background of your life while everything else continues. A part that doesn't look like progress, that doesn't feel like growth, that sometimes even feels like you're going backwards instead of moving forward. And that part is the repetition, the moments where you find yourself thinking about the past again, feeling the same emotions again, questioning your decisions again. And it can be frustrating. It can make you feel like all the effort you've put in is disappearing, like nothing is changing, like you're stuck in a loop that you can't escape. But what you don't see is that every time those moments happen, you are responding differently, even in small ways, even in ways you might not notice. Maybe you don't react as intensely as before. Maybe you recover a little faster. Maybe you understand your emotions a little more clearly. And those small shifts, they matter. They are signs that you are healing, that you are growing, that you are no longer the same person you were before, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Because healing is not about never feeling pain again. It's about learning how to carry it differently, how to process it, how to move through it without letting it control your life. And that takes time. It takes patience. It takes a willingness to keep going even when it feels like nothing is changing. Because change is not always visible. Sometimes it happens internally, in your mindset, in your perspective, in the way you see yourself and your experiences. And those internal changes, they are what eventually transform your external life. They are what allow you to move forward, to make different choices, to create a different reality for yourself. And I know there are days when you feel tired of the process, when you feel like you've been working on yourself for so long and you just want to feel better already. You just want to feel free from the weight of everything you've been carrying. But healing is not something you rush. It's something you allow. It's something that unfolds over time as you continue to show up for yourself, as you continue to choose growth over comfort, as you continue to let go of what no longer serves you, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it feels like you're losing something important, because what you're really doing is making space for something new, something healthier, something more aligned with who you are becoming. And that process, It's not always easy, but it's worth it, because every step you take, no matter how small, is bringing you closer to a version of yourself that is lighter, stronger, more at peace. And even if you can't see it yet, you are getting there. At some point in your journey, you begin to realize that the things you were once chasing, the things you thought you needed in order to feel complete, in order to feel happy, in order to feel fulfilled, they start to lose their hold on you. Not because they were never important, but because you've grown, because your perspective has changed, because you've started to understand that your peace cannot depend on something outside of you, that your sense of worth cannot be tied to something that can be taken away. And that realization, it's powerful because it shifts your focus inward. It shifts your attention from what you don't have to what you can build within yourself. It teaches you that real stability, real peace, real fulfillment comes from inside, from the way you think, the way you see yourself, the way you respond to life. And that doesn't mean you stop caring about the external things. It means you stop depending on them to define you, to complete you, to give you a sense of identity. And that shift, it changes everything, because it frees you from the constant need for validation, from the fear of losing something, from the anxiety of things not going the way you planned. And instead, you begin to trust yourself more. You begin to rely on your own strength, your own resilience, your own ability to handle whatever comes your way. And that doesn't mean life becomes easy. It doesn't mean challenges disappear. It means you become stronger, more grounded, more stable in the way you face them. And that's what healing does. It doesn't remove the difficulties. It changes the way you experience them. It gives you the tools, the awareness, the strength to navigate them without losing yourself in the process. And I know there are still moments where you doubt yourself, where you question your progress, where you wonder if you're really moving forward. But look at yourself. Look at how far you've come. Look at the way you think now compared to before. Look at the way you handle situations that once overwhelmed you. You are not the same person. You have grown. Even if it's not perfect, even if it's not complete, you are evolving. You are becoming someone who is more aligned with peace, with clarity, with purpose. And that journey, it's ongoing. It doesn't end. But every step you take makes you stronger, makes you wiser, makes you more prepared for what's ahead. And that's something you should be proud of, even if you don't always feel it. And one day, it won't feel the same anymore. The things that once hurt you deeply will no longer have the same power over you. The memories that once brought pain will become just memories, without the same emotional weight, without the same hold on your heart. And you will sit there, in a quiet moment, and realize that you've changed, that something inside you has shifted, that the healing you were hoping for has happened, not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but slowly, gently, over time. Through all those small moments where you chose to keep going, where you chose to face your emotions instead of running from them, where you chose to let go even when it was hard, where you chose to trust even when you didn't understand. And in that moment, you will feel something different, not just relief, but clarity, a deep understanding that everything you went through had a purpose, that every difficult moment, every challenge, every time you felt like giving up, it was all part of shaping you into who you are now. Someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who knows their worth, someone who knows when to hold on and when to let go. And that version of you, it didn't come from comfort. It didn't come from everything going right. It came from growth, from struggle, from the process you went through. And that's why you can't quit now. That's why you have to keep going. Because you are closer than you think, closer than your doubts are telling you, closer than it feels right now. And if you keep moving forward, if you stay committed to your growth, your healing, your journey, you will reach that place where everything makes sense, where everything feels lighter, where you can look back without pain, where you can move forward without fear. And until you get there, just take it one step at a time, one moment at a time. Trust that even if you don't see it yet, you are moving forward, you are healing. You are becoming exactly who you need to be. And everything you're going through right now, it's not the end of your story. It's just part of the journey that is leading you to something greater.